evening. I'm just inviting a few people, and I'm going to ask you to please share out. We're going to start the discussion tonight on a very different tone. It's time to pull out all the carpets and talk about how there are people on this planet who connect with alien civilizations. Now, I'm not going to get into all of it, and this is part of my rollout, but I pondered with my rollout. I told you that yesterday. So we're going to begin by rolling it out naturally, the way it should be. And just give me a second here. I'm going to go into uncharted waters with many of you. And I say uncharted because this is just something that we are discussing in a very laid back atmosphere. How are you? Please share this out. Please invite. My name is Teresa. Y'all know me because I've been on the circuit for many years, and you've seen a lot of my processes, a lot of what I share, and I've listened to all of you as well, so we're in observance. So it's absolutely authentic to say that many people that are experiencing awakening connect with different ancient civilizations. And we ponder this question: what is our purpose? Where did we come from? Where is the God of source? And we go searching. And there's a lot of variances in this path, on this path, excuse me. And we feel different things, and we're always on looping. So I'm going to break it down simply with the Anunnaki. That's something that I've been connecting with for many months now. And as I've been connecting with the past civilizations, I've been understanding humanity more. And now we'll begin with the Anunnaki, but you could break it down and you could then understand why there's other civilizations that are extraterrestrial that are on this planet. This is a wealthy planet, and humans, divine humans, are caught right in the middle. Sure, almost like a demigod. Some are demigods, some are just people that are still in an embryonic state. So, plain and simple, there are creators that came from different planets, and they tilled the land. There's many variances, but the Anunnaki were the beginning of civilization. Whether you call them hybrids, whether you call them demigods, whether you call them extraterrestrial, we are part of that creation. And it affects us. It affects us in many different ways because we are a people searching for our origin. And there's a lot of information out there. And I'm going to show you how it ties in with our modern day life. And as it ties in, it's going to be up to each and every one of us to rise up. Because every culture has a story that's similar about the deluge, about creation, about human genome, a good and an evil, what this planet was about to the people, the civilizations that landed here. So we could go back and forth, but I'm not looking to do that because my goal is to find how we fit in. And there's creation that is before us, and we know as human beings that there's traumas and that we could be so great, but we're kind of sheep-like and we're in a herd-like mentality. And how do we break out of that? And the Anunnaki were our teachers, our creators, because they came from their planet and they came in search of gold. So they could save their planet. But you know, when they came here and they were tilling this land, let's face it, the paradises that have been created and the wealth that has been taken from our planet has been a resort for many different types of species. So it's all parallel. And when they landed here, they would have lived in huts and they would have had to navigate, and they did. And we thought it was mythological, but really what happened is the records are being found and everything leads up to the civilization of mankind, and that would be us. With a very creative mind source that hasn't been fully developed, an energy that is so spectacular that we could extend life, and all the things that we are searching for are really right in front of us. Because if you take the records of the Anunnaki and you understand how it was laid down on this planet, then you can understand a lot of things. And then you can understand any other extraterrestrial that came to this planet, right? And is inhabiting this planet and has their own agenda. Whether that's the Greys, whether that's the reptilians, whether that's the Palladians, etc., so on, how it goes, you could get this idea of how other civilizations, right, rise, and why this planet is a prize. So, how do you feel about knowing the truth? How do you feel about making sense of the puzzles and to understand that the human genome is tied in with extraterrestrials that are godlike? And yes, there is a source, but where's the true source of energy that we follow, right? And there's a godlike, and there's a God, but civilization in itself had to start somewhere, more than just from dust, because we are hybrids. And the bottom line is that this planet is on a collision course with other life forms that want to keep us enslaved. So the Anunnaki, when they created the human being, we were actually their slaves, right? We worked for them, even though we had the qualities of them, but then we became very special and they interbreeded with us. And every culture has a similar story, but we don't want to hear it, because if we look at the truth, remember I told you all the truth is going to come out, and as Jesus said, it is going to shake you up because you're not going to like it. And then when you start to understand that the kingdom lives in you, and you get it, because for years I never got it, and I know you all didn't get it either. What does that mean, the kingdom? It's so hard to find the peace, what this planet is about, how we could extend life, that we don't want to just look at the origins. And then there's a lot of things that are in play, and I'm not saying that, but we got to pull some things apart, and we have to get to a basis where we save our species, right? And we could do it with style and grace. We could hold our ground, but there is evil on this planet as well. And we have a greatness in us, but we have not reached our immortality. And that's why we are searching with the material that's here. And I told you all, no book could make you believe. What makes sense to you when you do your research is that you start to embody it, but you fall a lot when you are embodying it, and you have to really get it, and that's hard to get. And then something very magical happens because you understand what your mission is, and then there's a lot of things that we have not fulfilled yet. We were promised the 1,000-year reign, and then the dragon will be released again, right? But if you look at the Anunnaki on their planet, they were living for thousands of years, right? This planet slowed it down for them. This planet accelerated their agent. But for us, it's a different kind of a thing because we were created here, right? Created here. And yes, we have ties, and I'm beginning to understand that now, with other civilizations, but the divineness comes really from a root. And the supreme being we have yet to really encounter because the gods rule this planet. And that's the truth. And when the God came to this planet, oof, my earring came out. It wasn't enough for people because really there were things that they had to flow with. And this will take you to every part of your life in oneness that you are attaining. You can't attain oneness if you all are on different courses. You share a human genome and you make a choice, good or evil, right? And you have to be able to think out of the box to evolve because you're learning the truth. And as you learn the truth, you are opening your eyes. And, you know, civilizations have been built and destroyed since the beginning of this time. So if we're promised and if we are the key to the evolution process without the gods taking over, then we would have to be in tune with the frequency and understand what's going on, and the mind could trip you off. But, you know, it's a rare breed. It's a rare breed. Now, I don't want to get into all the negative about any of the civilizations at this point because I think that this is a deterrent. Obviously, if we take after the gods that created this planet, there is negativity because if we're built in their image, then we could see that they had a lot of relationship issues, right? But when you are overcoming things, and especially overcoming trauma and understanding, you could either get bitter or you could extend. And I find when you extend in the heart, but you still hold your ground, you could conquer everything. And now I'll take you into why it's so important that we understand those civilizations and how the land were to be tilled, so to speak, and why we are sheep-like, and why there are people that have, you know, control over us. It might shake you a little bit, because then we have to admit we're mules, right? But if we get that we could be unmuled, and we should stop this about all the programming, because look, no matter if you're programmed or not, even when you transcend, you are programming yourself to something different. Like being a better person, having some morals, knowing when to hold your ground, knowing when to retreat, knowing when to step in, knowing when to be like a warrior, knowing when to be gentle. You see, everybody else misconstrues everything. And I am just bringing this up because I want you to do your research. You to go back to the Circa records, you to go back to Macedonia and understand that all the gods that are on this planet, whether they are called Enki or Ishtar or Ra or, you know, the Elohim or God or Allah or, you know, the many presiding, right, goddesses that were involved, but through this system of things have been nullified, you can understand that many types of worshiping took place. And you know, there was incest as well. And these things were very normal, but now we are blossoming into something else, right? It's very deep and it's very controversial, but you know, I say that you could be all of that because you have the right to question the gods. You have the right to question yourself, and you have the right to know where you're going to be. Because if you believe in all of this, you believe in something mystical, right? You believe in something better, but it does start with you. And if you can't be honest enough to say you don't know everything, but you do know that there's a guide and an intuition that you are drawn to follow, then why wouldn't you say, wow, the material is right here? You know why? Because that material means you have to do something about it. And there is evil that plagues this planet to a degree that you all are giving up your souls for an instantaneous reaction that you think is going to take you into the next millennia. It's not happening like that. You know, you don't even know where you go when you die, although there are people who had near-death experiences and were sent back, and they could tell you what their experience was. You yourself, who've never experienced it, don't know. And many people believe after death they go back to the ground, and how do you get resurrected is another day of judgment. But I'm saying you could avoid all that, because you have to confront it on this planet. And there's nasty on this planet, but there's a lot of beauty. And if that beauty outweighs the nastiness, because you are a warrior. So, you know, when people like segregate and they come out with all this nonsense, for many years I've been observant, and for many years I pushed back. And it is sometimes a feisty way of doing things, but if you are on a mission for your people, you can't be docile while you are taking a stand and you want to know. You have to be able to be versatile and be able to pull every emotion in when that's necessary. So you have to know when to stand ground. You have to know when to be soft. You have to not separate. You have to learn how to, separate the two. When a person is working for a big crowd, or a group of people are working for a big crowd for change, they are dealing with things that need to be done for the growth of the community. When other people are healing, they are just doing that. But all this nonsense in between is strictly that. And people are afraid to say it. And then when you rise, you really do rise up in mind and soul, and it does affect what is happening here. Listen, you know, they are trying to push you to accept pedophilia, and, you know, nobody's doing anything. And your own entertainers that you love are doing this, right? The government is doing that. Why is that so important? And if you go back to the other civilizations that also had control over this planet and also have divine tools, so to speak, blood ritual is nothing new. You know, what happens in an era that was wiped out and can't, you know, really take it, because you're a mule, right? So you promise the mule that, you know, you live a good little life, it's your family, you have a white picket fence, etc., so on, but that went south, right? You know, you could do a lot of things underground, but it's all out now because there's no more underground. So these things are not new. It's just that they're in the open right now. What are you going to do about it? Becomes the question that only you can answer, because, you know, you're running and you make them believe you're happy, and you're not, because you're confused. And this is a general analysis. This is how the world runs. I'm not saying anything that's not true. And to be able to understand this and not loop anymore and accept things for what they are is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to do. You know, and people get there differently, but you can't get there sloppy, because when you're sloppy and you don't take responsibility, you loop. And you can't preach only love and light, because if you don't understand the root of why the loop is happening, then how could you step into a light that allows you to shine? And you can't listen to what people say constantly, because they will lead you to the abyss. But a true leader understands that. A true person who understands what it is to walk in Hades, and really just could attest that even in times of shakiness or things that you don't like, you just keep moving forward. And the Anunnaki are in us. Their DNA is in us, as well as other sources. But we are just talking about the Anunnaki. Go back to the Circa records. These things that people thought were a myth are not. There are facts that back this up. And the gods that ruled for thousands of years on this planet, you know, those records are well kept. And they can't be disproved anymore. So that would leave me to say that our origins is starting to surface. And now where's the divinity that fits in? Because now we could understand that the mule likeness is not something that we want to continue forward. It's killing our children, it's killing us. We only live a limited time, and that is stress, under stress. It's parallel to the cattle that is kept confined because they're only a meat source and they can't breathe, right? So their lifespan is very short because they're a product. We're parallel to that. We should be able to be free. We should be able to live an organic life, and if time comes where immortality, right, has its limits, then we should be able to live it to the fullest, because 100 years is just not enough. We're babies. People are miserable. It's mule life. It's slave life. And that was taken away from us because we also have a wicked tendency. It's very deep. And they're living amongst us. And they're making no bones about it. And who can handle it and who cannot. But I'm telling you that the world order that they have in store for us, if evil prevails, will be a systematic death, just like food sources are. So y'all better think about that, you know. And a divine truth lives in your heart, right? Divine truth lives in your heart. People can't take that away. And, you know, those who truly know you could test. Because sooner or later the truth comes out about everybody. So that's why I say my policy is to say, you know, say it truthfully. You're a human being and you have a divine gift and an essence, but you screw up. And, you know, you go through things. And, you know, sometimes you get a little jealous of people who really are doing the things that, you know, they say they are, and putting you to the test when it comes to the truth, because they know that you're selling people lies. It's all like the truth. So what are you afraid to say it? Because your action, if you're kind and fair and no nonsense, is going, your reputation will precede you. But those that don't, you never hear about those thousands of people that are dug up on on ancient sites. Let me say it that way so my tongue twister don't get in the way. And they were everyday people. You hear about the kings and the queens and the shakers and the bakers. So in order for you to come to your true divinity and take back this planet, then I suggest you parallel it, right? And people get triggered and people don't like it, and you have to do what makes sense to you. But people are finding out the truth. Hey, listen, I was very blinded to ancient civilizations for a long time because I had to train in other ways, and everything comes to me as it needs to come to me. And now it's making sense because I'm on a quest for truth. And I want to speak directly with the gods as well as the God and the people who rule this earth, because I'm one amongst you that our species counts, don't you think? Our species count. And I think that people should get real. And then you could deal with anything. Because these buffoons that are actually on talk shows and are actually spitting sentences out of their mouth that are out of control and off the beamer are ridiculous. What about the people's families who died from the biological COVID? They were vented, they didn't have a chance, they were taken out. We can't talk about that? What about the people who are addicted to drugs? What about this nonsense that's going on where people who live in their own countries are so terrorist-minded, and I'm going to say it just like that, they don't want to be in their own country and they slander it. Get out of this country if you don't want to be in this country, right? If you hate it that much, get out. But no, you come here to rape this country. And this is a parallel that's happening now in a lot of lands. But you see certain countries that won't take that, right? So, very far and in between, but you do see like it's a joke. It really is a joke. And who's running this country? Who's running this world? And what's the purpose of all this? While the same thing happens, I don't think that's fair. I really don't think that's fair. And I have a lot of love in my heart, and I am very divine, and I believe in God. But I also believe that they left this planet, and now we had to find our own resources. So now, if we are taking a stand with the God who promised to walk beside us, then we better, like, get cracking here. Because for many people, life is a bundle of nerves. And you don't want to say the truth because you're living in a race and you're doing things just to forget the true essence of what it is. Be a little kinder. Be a little bit more understanding. Don't be afraid to hold your ground. Understand that you count. But understand that the human genome was just that, because they came to mine gold. But this planet became very resourceful. And that beauty that you see that was built through the technology, right? That took time. The ancient, earliest people who landed here would have lived in huts in the beginning. Let's be real. You didn't, you were mining those things. It became very hard. And if you look at the garden-like state in the Garden of Eden, if you go through that story, even with the Gnostic texts, it's parallel. What were you naive to? What did you do? Why were you naked? What were you tilling when you were naked? What were you doing that you were unaware, right? And you were unaware too of sex because it was very different. You see, what are you doing here? You have to go back. It has to make sense. And every story connects this, right? Just like every religion that's organized on this planet kills in the name of God, and we kill our brothers and sisters. There's a lot going on here. So go back to the Anunnaki records, go back to the Circa records, go back to, actually we have to go back to Iran. Anybody out there who has Iranian records that could, cross-reference with me, that would be most appreciated. This is what we have to do now because we are up against a lot. And we're going to have to go toe-to-toe with that. Sooner or later, or you die. Period. You die. And you don't have to, because there is a thing of immortality, extending our mortal life here for sure. There is a thing of having a good heart, being fair. There's also a thing of being wicked and, conniving. But you pick and choose that. You pick and choose where you want to be. So, peace out and rock out. And this is kind of the rollout. This is really something that you have to really kind of take in and kind of experiment with and see what makes sense as you are connected with the universe and the divine tools that are given to you so you can live a life of knowing rather than a life of instability and death. Peace out.